Welcome back in, guys. Trey Lowell here with another episode of Lowell Talks. Today's conversation, we're going to be kind of focusing in on gimbals and which ones you should keep an eye on, and the honest question, do you even need one? Coming up next. Alright, so the gimbal that I actually have in my hand currently is the Gimbal S. Now, the reason that I bring that up is I recently purchased it, and there's going to be several reasons why, but I kind of want to start with the number one question, and that is, do you actually need a gimbal? Now, that's going to take a little bit of deep diving into, but I want to start with this. If you are in the consumer market, so that being said, you're probably looking at Canon, Sony, Panasonic, and maybe Fuji, and probably GoPro. Now, that being said, these are all fantastic options, but that leads me to my next point, and that is a lot of these cameras nowadays do have IBIS or in-body stabilization, which leads me to the point of when it comes to a gimbal, I actually do not think it's 100% necessary for many of you guys out there. And considering the kind of price tag that it comes with, this is why I kind of wanted to have a long-form discussion in regards to, do you actually need one or not? And if so, what are going to be your best options for not completely just destroying your bank account? Now, that being said, if you're a Canon shooter, a Sony shooter, or Panasonic, here's pretty much what I am going to say, and then we'll address GoPros as well. Depending on if you're doing professional shoots or you're just honestly an enthusiast, I do think if you're on the enthusiast end of things, you probably don't even need to consider gimbals for a little while. And the reason being is most likely your camera's going to have some sort of image stabilization, and you can even benefit by also getting a particular lens that's going to have image stabilization built into it as well. And a combination of those two combined literally is not going to make it 100% like a gimbal, but it's going to mean a couple of techniques, learning how to walk with your camera, and you can kind of start to get those gimbal style shots, especially if you're going to be able to then use kind of in post-production a stabilizer, warp stabilizer many of us are used to. And when it comes to GoPros these days, their stabilization is just nutty buddy and awesome. So, if you were going to be buying a gimbal, where would we even start? Now, I want to kind of talk personally just from my standpoint and why I even bought a gimbal. Now, I've been shooting with my Panasonic GH5 for about 2 years now, and if many of you are aware, Panasonic GH5, the Sony A7 series, and even most of your Canons, they're going to have some form of image stabilization. Now, the debate can be had which one is best, but in my kind of experience, it's going to be the Panasonic blows the rest of them away. But that being said, the reason that I bring that up is that's why I just currently bought a nice gimbal. Years ago, I bought a cheapie for like $300, and it was a big waste of time. And honestly, the amount of vibration and the shots that got ruined because of it made it absolutely a tool that I didn't even use. So let's fast forward to why in the heck I would buy the Gimbal S. Now, if you guys have been in the market for gimbals or you're just into camera technology, probably in 2018 and 2019, I feel like there was just an onslaught of gimbals being pushed, whether it was cell phone gimbals, where if it was DSLRs, it didn't matter. Now, probably back in 2018 and even in 2019, some of you are probably familiar with the DJI, kind of their 3-axis gimbal that actually had 2 handles, and I had my experience with that one. I think it was the Osmo or something like that years ago, and it was great, but it was absolutely bulky, so I kind of stayed away from gimbals then. And then we kind of moved forward, and I've used the Zhiyun Crane 2, which I absolutely loved, but we didn't have the ability to kind of have any focus pull. As far as weight goes, anytime that I would try to put a more bulkier kind of lens setup to kind of get some better professional shots, what I found is the Zhiyun could handle it a little bit, but a lot of shake would be implemented as well, especially if I didn't balance 100% properly. Now, also in 2018 and 2019, a lot of gimbals didn't have these little tripods that they currently all come with now, and the reason that I'm showing you and also talking about it is it just makes kind of the user friendliness of even kind of running and gunning with a gimbal so much better, because now, rather than back in the day when you actually had to have a stand, this is a stand built in, and I mean anywhere you go you can kind of put it down. And these guys have gotten smart, and all gimbals now, for the most part, when you start entering the higher end ones, the ones that have really figured out Zhiyun, DJI, you're going to have a lot of locking mechanisms, which is going to be great too for setting your camera down and also for balancing. Now, that being said, why did I decide on the Gimbal S when honestly you have the DJI that's out there as well. Now you have the Ronin SC and the Ronin S, and I want to compliment both those. Similar to this one, those three gimbals from what I can tell are kind of like the gold standard at the current moment, unless you're kind of going to enter a conversation of gimbals that I won't even probably ever buy until I was doing $100,000 productions or more. And for the most part, most of you are not even going to be flirting with the idea of those kind of gimbals. So it leads us to the prosumer ones, the Ronin S, the Ronin SC, and the Weebill S. Now, these three I think are the kings on the block pretty much 2019 into 2019 leading into 2020, and I ended up buying this Weebill S at the end of 2019 mainly because I had heard in regards to the Ronin SC, I didn't think that it would actually be able to take the weight of kind of some of the camera-like workloads that I wanted to put on there. So a lot of Canon glass with my GH5, a Metabone speed booster. It was really front heavy, and my gut said that I didn't think the SC would be able to handle it. I knew the Ronin S would, but when I saw the Ronin S in person for the first time, it was absolutely huge, and my biggest kind of red flag that I knew is if it was that big, I probably wasn't going to carry it as many places. Now, that being said, the Ronin S is bigger, and the Ronin SC is pretty much similar in size to the Weebill S, but the reason that I went with the Weebill S is I have always been happy with Zhiyun. It's a little bit cheaper, and I just kept hearing this number over and over again of kind of like a 300% payload increase that Zhiyun's technology has come up with, and I don't know why, but that really intrigued me and kind of was the reason that I bought this gimbal. Also, it does have the ability to do focus pulling, and I actually have the focus pull mechanism as well, and I want to say that all in was like $100, and so that was a nice little treat to know that if I bought this model that I'd actually be able to beef it up a little bit for only $100, and if I even want to get more silly, I can buy some of their more attachments that come with it. Now, that being said, I do understand that DJI has a lot of this stuff built in, and it does have some other features in regards to kind of phone control and tracking that are nice, but for $100, you can put that onto the Weebill S and you're going to get the same functionality. But like I said, I kind of knew that I wanted to go with Zhiyun. I knew that would most likely be able to take any camera payload that I wanted to put on there, and so far, hint, hint, I have been able to put my GH5 with a Canon 70-200 f4. Now, this lens is a beast, and I plan on doing more of a review in regards to how it's functioned, how simple it was to balance on the Weebill S, but it just blew my mind that this little guy was able to take such a massive payload. And obviously, you also are going to have the ability to do the kind of whatever it is where you do the vertical hold or whatnot, so you can be able to grab it, flip it up like that, and then you're going to be able to hold the camera, especially if I loosen all these gears and things like that. But overall, this gimbal has been a win-win. But that leads me to finishing out the conversation, and really what I just wanted to say on the tail end is this, is that DJI Ronin S going to be great, SC is going to be great as long as your payload kind of fits within their guidelines, and then the Weebill S, from what I can tell, everybody that's purchased it absolutely loves it, and in my experience, I have as well. But the one con that I want to put on all these gimbals is if you're a Panasonic shooter like myself, I'll be honest with you, just about anything that can get handheld. I'm not saying that I can achieve all the smoothness with a gimbal, but with the GH5 and some of its glass, I can just basically achieve the same shots. And as far as my workflow goes, it's so much quicker. And I think that's kind of the biggest downfall to a lot of these gimbals, is that we all get excited, but if you're like myself and you're a run and gun shooter, and a lot of situations are going to be kind of walking into an environment, not knowing what's going on, and kind of having to just hit record and go, pulling focus, being able to kind of move around quickly and maneuver to get a kind of versatile shots, like a wide variety of shots. Now, the reason that I bring that up is with a gimbal, what I find is when I walk into a lot of scenarios, I am going to be able to get these nice, steady, smooth shots, and with having the focus pull, that's going to be easy. Obviously, I can do it traditionally as well. But what ends up getting tricky is all the panning up, panning down, being able to quickly drop it down and get in a position. That's where these gimbals and even balancing, it just starts to get really tricky. Whereas in my experience, I love to shoot with like my Panasonic GH5 on a Manfrotto monopod. And that way I can basically boom, boom, on and off, quick release, which you can do on here, quick release. I could just drop this down, boom, quick release it, and now it's in my hand. But that being said, I just love the fact of the ability that you have when you just have the camera in hand and you can just go. But gimbals are fantastic and give you they open up a window of opportunity that I haven't really experimented with a ton, but so far have absolutely loved. And I think where gimbals come in handy is more on the professional side when you're really trying to take everything to the next level and you're trying to implement no flaws, a very clean corporate look. Gimbals are going to foster an environment for that. And as always, guys, it's Trey Lowell with another episode of Lowell Talks, me rambling on about gimbals. If you have the money and you're looking to go real professional style, I do think a gimbal is going to be a great item for you to focus on. I don't think it's needed in the beginning. I think it's better to master your camera and then bring in the tools once you've mastered your camera to then take it to that next step, the next level. So hey guys, Trey Lowell with Lowell Talks. And as always, if you like this content, hit that like button. If you like what I keep doing here on this channel / podcast, I'd love for you to subscribe and make sure to tune in on a weekly basis. And I'll see you guys in next week's podcast.